And Dana Bash, a host at CNN, she was interviewing Pramila Jayapal, the Democrat from Washington, and she's a progressive Democrat. And Dana was asking her, how do you what do you think of the sexual violence against the Israeli women? Here's her response. Listen to this.
I've condemned what Hamas has done. I've condemned
specifically
all of
women?
the actions. Absolutely. The rape, of course. Frankly, morally, I think we cannot say that one war crime deserves another. That is not what international humanitarian law says.
Okay, with respect, I was just asking about the women, and you turned it back to Israel. I'm asking you about Hamas. In fact,
I already answered your question, Dana. I said it's horrific, and I think that rape is horrific, sexual assault is horrific. I think that it happens in war situations. Terrorist organizations like Hamas obviously are using these as tools. However, I think we have to be balanced about bringing in the outrages against Palestinians. 15,000 Palestinians have been killed in Israeli airstrikes, 3/4 of whom are women and children.
And it's horrible, but you don't see Israeli soldiers raping
well, Dana, I think
women.
we're not, I don't want this to be the hierarchy of oppression.
I mean, a lot of kudos to Dana Bash. I mean, there's some people at her network that haven't been as forceful. There's some people at other networks that haven't been forceful, and she's the chair of the progressive, the Congresswoman, the Progressive Caucus. The question is, and I want people to really think about this. For months now, for years actually, we've heard about women's rights. We've heard about equal justice. We've heard about treating people by the content of that. We've seen marches in the streets. And there is an entire campaign of hate toward Jewish people, and the same outrage, the same condemnation is not being projected. So the question we must ask ourselves, why is it? There's only one thing that is different. It is that they're Jewish. And I think it was great of Dana Bash to press the Congresswoman, stay focused here. I keep telling people, I'm so sick of this both side thing, Steve, because there's not both sides. The comparison to say, okay, Hamas has did this and the Israelis responding to the war crimes of Hamas.
Right.
That should be the focus of all people here.
You know, and a couple weeks ago, the U.S. House of Representatives, one of the first things the new speaker did was he introduced a resolution condemning Hamas. She did not vote for it. She voted present instead. What happened on October 7th, you know, it redefines evil. And, you know, we know that people were murdered, and we know that women were raped after they were murdered, which is just so disgusting. But here's the thing. The raping of Israeli women hostages continues to this day. And so it was a great question that Dana put to her. And what does she do? She does the both sidesism where it's like, okay, well, of course, it's terrible, and I've denounced it. She hadn't really denounced that vocally. Instead, rather than denouncing Hamas, she's talking about the Palestinian people. You've got to denounce Hamas, period, because that is a source of evil. And that is what Israel is working to do, to wipe Hamas off the face of the earth.
Yes. It's a terrorist organization, and what they did to those women and those children, you're right.
Still doing it.
Evil. Still doing it. You're right.
Well, we have to be clear also, Ainsley. We still have people that are still, I saw the footage, still denying that it even happened.
Right.
We still have people saying that the hostages really don't exist. You had one of the Hamas terrorists saying that they were just visitors. I mean, that's the type of propaganda that we're dealing with. So when we speak forcefully against it, this is why.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand how anyone can deny it. We have it on video. You've seen the video. You sat through all of that and you watched and you explained what you saw the next morning when you were at the UN. I think you went to the UN to go see that video, right? I mean, here's some of the video. Trey Yingst is over there and has seen it for himself. He went into one of those houses and he showed us all the blood on the floor that was trailing out of the safe room after they had annihilated a family in there. So the images are real, and even Hamas is putting these images on social media. So they're not denying it.
Yeah, more people, everybody needs to call out Hamas for what they're doing.
And I don't want
to
we don't want
and
anyone,
women.
and we don't want anyone to die. We don't want civilians to die. But Israel's handled this completely different. Israel was dropping pamphlets down saying, "Move to the south. If you live in this neighborhood, we're coming in soon. We're warning you, move." Did Hamas do that to Israel? No. They were at concerts. They were eating breakfast with their families. They were at the dinner table. And these strangers come in and slit throats and put babies in the oven. They handled it completely different and raped the women. And that's what Dana Bash was saying to her. You need to condemn this violence because the Hamas is fighting at a different level.
It is very simple. If you want civilians, if you want women and children to stop dying in the Gaza Strip, then stop using them as shields. Fight like men. You brought this on yourself on October the 7th. Israel is in the middle of a hunt to hunt you down. Stop using women as children as shields.
And the only reason Israel's doing this is they don't want it to happen again. They're trying to eradicate this terrorist organization who has said, we're coming in a second time, a third time, a fourth time.
Yeah.
And Lawrence, to your point, it's hard to stop using women and children as shields when you put your headquarters under a hospital. Exactly. And today, right. Trey Yingstein's got the news that apparently there were 200 strikes against Hamas targets overnight. What do? The Israelis went into a school. What do they find there? Tunnels. One of the tunnels full of weapons, and the other tunnel booby trap, so that when the Israelis open the door, everything blows up.
Unbelievable. We continue to pray for our friends in Israel.
Yes,